I want to thank you for coming to my YouTube channel. Hey, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We have all kinds of new content for you that will bless you every day. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And guess what? You will enjoy this video. This is Jesse Duplantis said, enjoy yourself today. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Boardroom Chat number what?
I don't know. We have to check that out.
Quite a few. Praise
My
the
name
Lord.
is Cathy Duplantis, and this is
Jesse Duplantis. Thank you for joining us today. I want to go back in time. I've been preaching 45 years. I've seen a lot of guys start but didn't finish. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of projects start and didn't finish.
True.
And I've always wondered why, because it seemed like the people, in my way of thinking, anointed, talented, they should have been a success going somewhere to succeed. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about that today. In 1997, we began to build this facility called Jesse Duplantis Ministries, executive offices, international headquarters, the whole ball of wax.
Yes.
And we knew what the Lord told us to do, and we did it.
Right.
Right before that, we always leased things, but then we bought a building. I believe in 1991, I think it was 90. I'm not quite sure.
Right.
Storehouse Lane, what we called it. And we stayed there, and then the Lord told us that we really began to grow exponentially. I mean, just like crazy. And people have always asked me, why does everything you touch prosper? Like they think I got some kind of formula or something. No, what it is Hebrews chapter 12. And I want to read something. In verse 1, it says this, and watch this. First, you got to figure out who is watching you. Not only are people on the earth watching you, but people in heaven at times, God pulls back the curtain and he lets them see us.
Right.
At times. I'm not talking about bad things because there's no sorrow there. But I'm going to prove that to you in just a minute.
Well,
I know some of y'all going like, whoa.
We're aware of heaven. I'm sure the people in heaven are aware of us.
Well, sure they are.
Especially the ones who've been here.
But let me show you how to be a success. And God began to answer my question through the word about these people that some of them, I just knew they would be a success. I mean, they just seemed like they had it all. But did they? In Hebrews chapter 12, the Old King James Version says, verse 1, wherefore seeing we are also encompassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses. So a lot of people are watching us. Mm-hmm. Let us lay aside every weight and the sin. So there's a difference between weights and sin.
Right.
Which does so easily beset us. So you ought to figure out what is making you mad? What is making you sin? It would easily beset. The word beset's an old English word. Mm-hmm. And let us run with patience the race that is set before us. Verse 2 is where I want to get to. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. Everything we do, Cathy, we do by faith.
Right.
We can't please God without faith. That's Hebrews 11. Hebrews 11:6, you can go read it yourself. Now watch this. I seen people start out and they didn't finish. They bankrupt. It all blew to pieces. And when I started building these facilities, and I believe it was 1997, we purchased the land and we did the production distribution center first. Then we did the executive offices, and then we did the church, TV studios, all. And we built for 4 solid years. And never had a financial deficit, any way, shape, or form. Why? And I've had people say, how come you could do that and we couldn't do that? And how come my church failed? And I said, well, did God author your vision? See, God is the author and finisher of our faith. But he's under no responsibility, and I want you to write that down if you're taking notes. He's under no responsibility to finish something he has not authored. And I found out through study and, finding that a lot of people built churches, wanted to build the biggest church in the area, and they had to claim bankruptcy, they had to go all kinds of different things, because maybe God did not author it.
Right. Maybe
now, I didn't say he can't finish it,
right.
But he's under no responsibility to finish something he has not authored.
True. It may seem like a good idea, but it wasn't a God idea.
You got it.
Because every God idea is fruitful.
Right. God ideas work. Good ideas work as long as they're good. Mm-hmm. As long as people think they're good, then when people change, then that goes down the hill. But a God idea will function and work for eternity. But he's under no responsibility. See, that doesn't mean he won't finish it for you. But I've seen a lot of guys say, boy, they raise money in their churches to build a building, okay? Then watch this, halfway through the building process, they have to lay off people that gave, that were working for them in the church so they could finish the building. Now, I don't think God wanted that to happen.
No, or I've even heard where the church would put pressure on the people to go get a mortgage on their home or give things like that.
Right,
Pressure
yeah.
people.
And they
that's
shouldn't
the
do
wrong
that.
spirit, right.
So maybe, and I'm not being critical here, but I really believe I'm being truthful,
Right.
that God didn't author that. That didn't mean he could still finish it.
Well, the devil does fight, but there are, you know the difference.
Now, the reason why I read the Hebrews 12, verse 1, where there's so many cloud of witnesses, we'll look up, who's in the cloud? See what I'm saying? As well as the people here on earth. And people find out about those kind of things when you step out by faith and you don't finish it. Now, what we did to build this thing, the Bible says count the cost before you build the tower. So I did all the business aspects of it, me and you both,
Right.
what it would cost to build this facility. Everybody gave me their opinion. I wasn't looking for their opinion. I want to know what God thought. And now it's worth a lot more now. But I'll never forget that the architect said it would cost it probably $12 million. And our contractor said, maybe, because you got some pretty nice things. I went to the Lord about it because I said, Lord, I don't mind just lease a building, buy a building. I don't have to build any of this. He said, I want you to build this. I said, okay, so he authored it. So I did all the different things I'm supposed to do. In fact, I preached a sermon, How to Build God's Projects Debt-Free and Under Budget.
I remember.
And many years ago. And I'll be doing the process that we were building this. Now watch this. And the Lord said, you'll do it for $7 million. Now me, I've never built anything in my life before then. I always leased to purchase something. So when I told the architect and when I told the company, they said, oh, that's impossible. You got Italian marble in your foyer of your church and all the different things. Plus you're doing a phenomenal work on a slab for your television that people have to get under the slab. Well, how do you get under? Well, you got to build 2 slabs so you can have a place to get in there to run wire. That's money. I mean, you're talking a lot of money because you got to have engineering structure so that don't cave in or kill somebody, as well as all the different things to take. But I heard the voice of the Lord. He said, I'll do it for $7 million. When we finished it, they said it's impossible. We went under budget, $6,746,000. She's worth $27 million today. That's what some real estate people have told us today. And why? Because he authored it. So I want to ask you a question. Maybe you've been to a church and you stepped out by faith to help them build it and they blew it. And maybe you worked for a church or a ministry and they had to lay you off even though you were giving to the project. Mm-hmm. You see, and then what happened? Witnesses begin to talk about that, different things, and before you know it, people are saying, my God, they shouldn't have done that. I think there's a lot of people, sometimes their ego gets involved in something, and they want to build the biggest thing in town. Well, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying, God, you better make sure God authored that.
That's good.
Now, when we built Studio C, we in Studio C, we call it Studio C, it's Cathy's studio. And she gave me a little spot here, so she reminds me every time I'm here.
It's not just you, I'm here too.
Yeah,
so
I know,
Cathy's still all in the
yes,
C.
Yes, it's all in C.
Jesse gets to visit here in Studio
Now,
C.
I said I have to I authored the studio.
Yes.
You finished the studio.
Yes.
I said, go ahead and build the studio. Now, I still don't know how to build it. But not only did we get everything she wanted, but she began to decorate it and to do the different things that I need. And in other words, I'm saying what God tells you to do, you have to have a finished product.
Right.
See, God authored my salvation, and I'm going to present him this finished product in the event of my death if he doesn't come in my lifetime. See,
Right.
He authors and finishes it. He's the author and finisher of our faith. Now, the reason why I preach faith so much because it's the thread of the fabric of God's clothes. Mm-hmm. So now I'm going to ask you a question here. When I told you to go ahead and build Studio C, my job was to pay for it.
Believe for the
And
money
believe
for
for it and pay for it, that kind of stuff. See, God was doing that, so I knew what to do on this. And so I prayed about how do you want me to do this? What do you want me to do? I found out what it would roughly cost before we started anything. Then it was your job to put the finishing touches on it working together in different things. And then you would come to me during the process and say, oh, I think we need to do this. Like I think one time we were kind of behind schedule because we wanted to finish it before the Visionary Conference. And you came to me and said, I'm going to pull a whole crew. I'm going to hire a whole crew of people to come in here and knock this thing out because a lot of our own people were building this. And they came in. So between our people and the crew that we hired, you knocked it out.
Right.
Now, what gave you the ideas of the decorations? What gave you the ideas? Did you see this before it was built?
I really did, and I just started out drawing things on a piece of paper, and I trust God to direct and guide me, and actually it was a desire of my heart to have something softer and whiter, because every time I'm in a studio set with you, when I've done tags, Jesse's sets all dark burgundy, it's beautiful, I designed that too, actually painted it, did the wallpaper on the original one and worked with the design. We wear a lot of hats around here.
No, we have to, yes, no other choice.
But, God put it on my heart, and I remember every step of the way, sometimes when I talked to some of the team that was helping me with it, they weren't sure if this was really going to work, because you usually don't do all white.
Especially with television, because of cameras.
TV, but the Lord worked it all out. It was a
and
dream.
you actually convinced one of our TV people.
Yeah, I think now he's real happy with it.
Okay, now you're the pastor of the church. God authors a sermon. How do you finish it?
Well, it's like anything. You stick with it. You hear I think every idea and dream starts in a seed form.
Right.
And it has to be first conceived.
Right.
And then when you receive what God is saying, then it has to have a conception stage. There's the reception stage, and there's a conception stage where you have to get all the concepts together and everything works. And it takes time meditating, searching it out, thinking things through, deep in thought, the Holy Spirit helping you every step of the way. And then there's that time where you deliver.
Right. Now, you see, when me and Cathy have been married 51 years, God authored our marriage, but we finished it. And
we're still finishing it.
That's my point. You see, so many people now, when you say, do you take this woman to be your lawful wife? I do. You saying this before God and man. Why is there so much divorce in life? Because they don't believe in finishing what God authored, or did God author that? Maybe you just like that woman because you thought she was sexy, or you thought he was sexy and all that kind of stuff. And that's a part of marriage, but that ain't the only part, buddy. And then once you decide to have children, then you decide to just walk away. Well, what about the kids? What about this? Even if you do walk away, you still mama, you still daddy, and that is kind of a frustrating. You came from a divorce life, and you told me many times how many times that y'all prayed or maybe whatever y'all did, that you wanted your mom and dad to get back together. Am I correct in that?
That's so true, yeah.
And then sometimes you thought, well, did we do something wrong? See, people, there are a lot of witnesses around here, and when you say God said to do something, you better make sure that he authored that. And then you better make sure you got the ability to finish it. So when we built this thing, I went and get prices, and the prices were not in the $7 million range. They were like what the contractor said, and the architect told me. I said, well, Lord, he said, I'm the author, I will finish. He said, all I want you to do, and I'll never forget this, if anybody asks you about what you're building, you tell them you ain't building nothing. Remember me saying that?
I remember that.
And I'd say, what? He said, I'm building this.
Yeah.
They'll be talking to you, but that's my buildings, and this is my designs, and this is what we're going to do.
Well, every dream, like I said, starts in a seed form. It starts there, but you got to keep pursuing it. You have to keep searching out the details of it. What's really there? And it takes time to understand all of that, and you don't want to move ahead of that. But it's just like, even I was thinking about the previous chapter of Hebrews 11.
Right.
I know we read about the cloud of witnesses. I think it's talking about, like you said, people maybe that are in heaven now, but it's also referring to chapter 11 where it lists all the heroes of faith.
That's
They're
right.
in heaven watching down. Well, we can learn from the example of Abraham, and in Hebrews 11, verse 8, it says, by faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed. And he went out not knowing whither he went. So he had that first seed, God called him to go. He didn't know where he was going. He was walking it out. And many times, I've said it this way, when God gives us an idea or a plan or a dream or a vision, we see just the beginning of it. And there's a stage there where I'm doing the Abraham thing. I'm walking the length and the breadth of it. In the spirit realm, I'm praying and seeking it out and not moving until I have a peace, knowing, yes, this is the right step.
Well,
And then when it's a team of people working together, like we work together,
Right.
we bounce the ideas upon each other
Right.
and see if we agree with it. And this is how we've always moved together as a couple
Well,
and as a ministry.
The most important word in that verse was he obeyed.
Yes.
Now, you see the difference between me and Cathy. I see the finished product. In other words, if God tell me I'm going to the promised land, I may not know where the promised land is, but I'm going to have a promised land in my future.
Yeah.
Now, see, that's what I loved about Abraham. He didn't know where he was going, but as far as he was concerned, he had a promised land in his future.
Yeah.
When I started building, of course, I didn't know how to build any of that, and thank God that Cathy knows a lot about plans and blueprints and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I knew where I was going. I knew the phase work I was going to do on it, but I didn't know how to get there. But I knew that God authored it, and he expected me 24/7
Yes.
to finish it.
Right.
And then after that, to keep it. He did the same thing to me he did to Adam and Eve. When he gave them a garden, he said, dress it. Then he said something else. There was a hint there. Keep it, which means snake coming. Somebody going to try to get you out this garden. Somebody going to try to do this and do that. No. It's our job not only to keep it, to dress it and keep it working,
Start it,
but to keep that thing
Keep it.
going.
Yeah.
Past you.
Right.
Past who you are.
I remember when we went to a funeral one time. I just had this thought. We went to a funeral, and there was a pastor that we know really well who passed on. We loved him. I think it was Brother Radke's funeral.
Yes.
And he was a pastor on the West Bank, just a precious man. We had a great
Bishop Radke.
great history with him, Paul Radke, and he was on TV, one of the first on TV in this whole New Orleans area.
Very
And I
fair.
remember
He was really ahead of his
He
time.
really was such a soul winner. We just love him so much. We're still connected to his family. His grandson is our spiritual son.
Right.
And anyway, at that funeral, a pastor friend of ours from North Louisiana, I think it was Denny Durant.
Denny
Pastor
Durant.
came in, and
Hey,
we
Denny.
met him and said, "Hey, Denny, good to see you." I hadn't seen him in a few years at that time.
Right.
And he says, "I always like to come to funerals and to see how, and I like to observe how great men finish." Yeah. See how they finish.
He said how great men finish. I'd never heard that before. And boy, he spoke some words and I spoke some words. Both of us were asked to speak at Bishop Radke's homegoing.
Right.
But I love that statement, to see how great men finish. Well, Abraham finished well.
Yes, he did.
You see? And will you finish well? You'll finish well if God is the author and finisher of your faith.
Right.
Of your faith. You see what I'm saying? And I'll never forget that. So when we begin to do this thing, I had many, some people would say, listen, and God said we're going to do it debt free. Now, I had 3 banks here in New Orleans, Louisiana, said you can't do that because they knew my finances, but they didn't know my God.
Right.
They didn't understand that who had authored this vision. They said you can't do that. I said, well, the Bible says, and that freaks them out. When they're dealing with business and you throw the Bible in there,
Right.
that knocks the socks off. But the Bible says I can do all things through Christ. Now, either you lying or God's lying, and guess what? I pick you. So we started, and I want to tell you something. They were like Job's friends. They were just waiting for me to fail. Just saying, we're going to have to come in and bail this guy out, put it on a note. And ladies and gentlemen, in all this time, we've saved over $21 million in interest by not financing this campus. Now, that's a miracle of God.
That's a lot
and
of
we
money.
took that savings and took that 21 million instead of having to pay it every month, and we put it out in world evangelism so we could reach people and change lives one soul at a time. And I say that's success. No, it's success in one sense, but what it is author and finisher.
Right.
Author and finisher.
Yeah.
And then the people that saw us do it, all we did was show people a good report
Yeah.
in heaven, on earth, that we had did what God wanted us to do. So some of you may have wondered why I mean, why did that church fail? Why did it do that? Well, a lot of times sin gets in there and they mess up things. But a lot of times people's egos get involved when they come to building things. Now, who don't want something nice? Everybody wants something nice. You want to be proud of what you do. But just remember that you better make sure God authored this thing. Because let me go back to that same statement, because he's under no responsibility to finish something he has not authored. And I've said this many times to Cathy. I'm a New Orleans guy. Cathy's not. She was from a town called Houma, Louisiana, which is about 47 miles away from here, 46 miles, something like that. Okay, my mother we have the East Bank and the West Bank, and the Mississippi River is what dictates that. Now, I'm telling you what, even though it just crossed the river, them people on the West Bank are totally different than them people on the East Bank. And the West Bank don't care too much for the East Bank. The East Bank don't care too much for the West. I mean, and all that kind of stuff. But my dad was transferred to Houma when I was 14, I think it was. However old you are when you're in the 8th grade, whatever it is, something like that. And to make a long story short, I honestly believe God was authoring something and my dad didn't even know it, because I would have never met this woman. Because Mama said, we ain't going to Houma. And Mama ran the show. I mean, she made Daddy thought he ran the show, but Mama ran the show.
Yeah,
you met my mother.
often said your dad was the head of the house, but your mama was the neck.
And it turned everything. I honestly believe God was authoring a meeting between me and this woman here, that he saw this ministry. He said, I'm going to author their marriage, even though he's a heathen from hell, and she's a good sinner, but she's still a sinner. She don't know Jesus. She gets saved first. I mean, he put this all together. And because he saw this ministry, he saw you watching this today.
Think about it.
Think about it. He authored this today. Now, will you finish it today? You see what I'm saying? So I made up my mind. When I was praying about what we talk about, and I thought about the terms of building. I've seen so many great buildings, and yet there's a stain on it because they had to claim bankruptcy and different things. And then people get up and say, oh, God gave us a miracle. The bankruptcy job cut off millions of dollars. Well, what about the people that invested in that lost all that? That's not a miracle. You see what I'm saying? I thank God that the judge gave you a little favor, but that's not the issue. What should have happened is that you author it, you finish it, and when it's all said and done, you can stand before it and say, look what the Lord hath done. And when God told me don't say you're building anything, when people would come to bid on these jobs, and we took 3 bids on everything we did in here, they said almost all of them, almost everyone, not all of them, but I almost say 99.9% of them said, well, Reverend, you're building something good. I said, I ain't building nothing. What do you mean you're not building nothing? I said, this God's building this. And they just look at me, what? I said, no, I ain't building anything. I don't know how to build nothing. If I build a doghouse, the dog going to get wet. You ain't going to have problems. I said, but if God builds it, he's going to stay dry. Now, we never asked them to cut deal. We never asked people, can you cut us a deal? We didn't say any of that. We wanted 3 bids. And sometimes the highest bid is not the best one. Sometimes the lowest bid is not the best one. Sometimes the middle is best. You go as God directs you. And I would see God touch people in the most amazing way, and they say, well, this is supposed to cost this, but I don't know why I'm doing this, but I want to do this job. I'll do this for this amount of money. And it was just astronomical. That's low as compared. That's why we came so far under budget in everything. Because I kept my word to God. He said, if anybody asks you, you tell them you're not building nothing. I am.
Yeah, and you had many opportunities along the way to get distracted or to shrink back from that.
What about the temptation of pride? And they said, boy, that Jesse Duplantis. I'm telling you what, say it right in front of me. He knows how to build. Look at this. This is class. I said, I ain't building nothing. But that devil tried to make me grab that compliment. But I knew, buddy, I'd have sunk it right there.
God's glory, right?
Right. You don't touch that, see? That's why he's the author and finisher of our faith. So if you're standing on the word of God for a healing, he authored healing, now you finish it. Now, how do you finish that? By saying, by his stripes I am. I'm not going by what I feel. I'm not going by what I see. I'm not going by what the doctors say. I don't deny what the doctors say. I deny it's right to affect me, because whose report shall I believe? Yeah. I'm going to believe the report of the Lord, which does what? Give God glory when you're healed.
That's right.
and
That's
ministered
good.
to and blessed.
That's good. You know, every plan, every dream, every vision has a beginning,
Right.
a middle, and an ending. And so often we always we have to begin. A lot of times we always keep our eye on the ending, and that's good. But you got to keep walking it through. You can't stop, sit down like they say, although I'll walk through the valley.
Yeah.
You know,
Not stop and build a
stop,
house and
build a house.
canonize the place. Yeah.
But-
Do I walk through the valley of the
Right.
shadow of death?
Everything, even Jesus coming to the earth, God's plan, vision for the earth, it began like we've talked about
Yeah.
how Jesus was the lamb slain before the foundation
That's
of the
right.
world. So on the cross, he says, it's finished.
Well, actually, the Father said, it's finished, now begin. Because before Jesus didn't die 2,000 years ago. That was his physical death. He was a lamb led to the slaughter before the foundation of the earth. What's happened is they had a business meeting. And Father said, I'm gonna create a human race. And I love them. I'm going to put my name in them, and I'm going to do that. But they're going to fail. And Jesus, the Son of God, said, what shall I do for thee? Mm-hmm. Well, he said, I will lay down my life so you can have what your heart's desire is, Father.
That's our theme for this year. What shall I do for
What
thee?
shall I do? And that's exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. So that was all done before. That's why you don't catch God off guard, because he knows what's coming. And then, but yet somebody had to finish it.
Yeah, and Jesus still
do you
had to
understand?
walk it through. He had to be born of a baby, of a virgin. He was a
Right.
baby. He had to grow up, and
Now
he
that in
was
itself
tempted
is
of sin
unbelievable.
like everyone else is here, and he was without sin.
Yeah. How do you get born of a virgin? Well, when God's involved in everything, he can do anything he wants to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, he made a man out of a piece of dirt. Mm-hmm. I mean, a clump of, Adam, you've heard me say, was a dirty man. He made out of dirt. But he didn't make Eve like that. He made her out of a rib. You know, everybody liked ribs. Praise God. So think about it. The rib was better looking than the dirt. Mm-hmm. But you see what happened when they came together, and God said, be fruitful. So I guess God knocked the dirt off of Adam, made him look pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Or something like that. Be fruitful. Multiply, replenish, and subdue. Be fruitful, always produce. Yeah. Multiply, always increase. Yeah. Replenish. In other words, use it up and then fill it up again. Then he said, subdue. If anything gets out of line, put it down. Mm-hmm. In other words, finish your course.
Continue.
That was Paul saying, I fought a good fight.
Right.
I finished my course. I kept the faith. Well, first, you can't fight a good fight without the faith. You can't finish your course without the faith. Mm-hmm. See, you got to keep that faith. The author and finisher of our faith. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you want to build something, is God telling you to open up a church? Is God telling you to build a church? Yes. Did God author it? Mm-hmm. Because if he did, he is going to pay it. But if he didn't, you're going to struggle. Mark my word, because you might want to do that. And I wouldn't get ahead of God. I mean, I had some people, I've heard this, and I understand not the technology, I understand the psychology of it. You know, when your building's 80% finished or 80% full of people, it's time for you to build something. Well, that may work psychologically, but that may not work financially. In other words, if you have to go to the multiple service, you go to multiple service. I remember people the Protestants, oh God, they would get so mad because them Catholic church people, they have multiple services. Yeah, the Catholic Church was pretty smart. They said, you know, we can build a church of, let's say, I don't know, that'll seat 700 to 1,000 people, but we can do the whole community. Yeah, but they got 15,000 people there. But they might have 12 services on the weekend. One building, handling a town. That's good business. Somebody authored that, and they finished it. Mm-hmm. Now, who don't like going to a big, beautiful, massive cathedral church? That's wonderful. But they had enough sense to know to do that. And finally, the Protestants picked it up and said, now you go to a lot of Protestant churches, they got multiple services, you know. And, you know, the Catholics had an idea that some people couldn't go to church on Sunday, so they would have Saturday Mass. Mm-hmm. Now, you just couldn't get a Protestant to do that on Saturday, unless you was the Seventh-day Adventist. See, in other words, you had to be a certain fellowship or doctrine or whatever. But not the Catholic Church. That's why the Catholic means universal. See, we're going to touch the world. And they did. They put that gospel out. Authored, finish it. Author and finisher. So everything you do, whether it's spiritual, physical, or financial, it must be authored by God. And then, remember, he's under no responsibility to finish it. I'm not saying he won't do it for you. Because his mercy is nice. Sometimes he'll do that. You blew this thing, but I'm going to get you out of this bind. You see what I'm saying? Or you're just going to have to walk this thing out. You know, he's under no responsibility to finish something he hadn't authored. So I believe in finishing things. I believe in other words, why? For the witness' sake. To give not me glory, to give God glory in every area. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Is this ministering to you today? See, I want to be debt free. Okay. Finish it. You may not be able to buy something you want, but one day you'll be able to buy everything you want.
Yeah.
I never forget.
You have to have a plan.
Remember,
right.
we built that house when we moved here. We spent all the money we had to build the house, but we didn't have enough money for curtains or drapes. You know, curtains is the poor people way of saying it, and drapes is the rich people way of saying it, you know. And Cathy wanted some drapes and stuff, and I thought, well, we ain't got the money. You know what I'm saying? That's so we can save. And I did this, and I looked down, and I had a Rolex watch on. And Cathy had a Rolex watch. I said, Cathy, do you like your watch? Well, yeah, I like my watch. I said, you know, I can sell these watches, and we'll get enough money, and we can put those curtains or drapes or whatever you want there. And Cathy never hesitated. She went just like this. She just popped that watch off. She said, let's sell that. Not that she didn't like the watch. We did like the watch. I said, you know what? And God is so good. We're not only going to get the drapes, we're going to get the watches too. So we sold the watches. We put the drapes and all the different things that you wanted, what do you call it, window treatments or whatever you call it. And you know, we did that, and within, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 months, we got brand new watches too. But we were willing, and you know, and I believe God authored that thought. And I finished that thought. And then you finished that thought. And the Lord said, because thou hast done this, I'm going to do this. And it works so simple. And how many times people come in and say, oh, I sure like your drapes. We just smile, said, well, and we would tell them, you sold your watches? Well, yeah. Yeah, but you got your watches. Yeah, the Lord said, God will bless you. You know, if you just listen.
Yeah, he'll give you insight on how to complete the full vision of it. And there'll be some things along the way that you have to do, maybe a second job, maybe something that you have that you can sell. But I mean, there's some wisdom in
There's
in
wisdom
all of
in
that.
everything. I mean, you know, people say, I just don't want to, you know, people say, I want to be in full-time ministry. Well, I just don't want to have a secular job. Well, okay. Well, then the Apostle Paul was not in full-time ministry because he made tents. Full-time ministry is living for Jesus on a daily basis. Now, there'll come a time when you can get so busy that you can't do nothing else but that. You see what I'm saying? That's a different thing. See, that's called development as you walk out your vision in every area of your life.
And we did that. In the beginning stage of our ministry, I had a little daycare business. And you were working at a job, Shell Oil Company. We felt that the Lord is calling you to the ministry full time. So I had the little daycare business, and we kept our expenses low.
And everybody thought I was crazy when I quit
We had a plan. God had a plan for,
Everybody thought I was nuts when I quit. Because I had a good job.
It was a great job.
You better know it.
Future.
One of the best companies I ever worked for. Shell Oil Company was one of the best companies I ever worked for in my life. I enjoyed working for those people. And they thought I lost my mind, but I heard the voice of the Lord. He said, I will author this ministry.
Yeah.
Now, Cathy was willing to, I'll do whatever it takes. She couldn't come back.
And so
we only had one car.
Right, one car in the beginning. I remember I would.
How did you go to church?
I had the daycare business so that I would make sure I had groceries before you left.
Right.
It was just in my house, and the house was just a little small 2-bedroom house.
910 square foot.
8 children, 5 days a week, and then so I would cook
and
the meals.
910 square feet, 8 kids. It wasn't easy.
No, and so because I had the one car, I had to get the groceries.
How'd you go to church?
Can I finish this story, please?
Well, answer my question first. You can finish the story.
Okay.
How'd you go to church?
Well, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
You see, I'm doing what you do. I'm making a long story short. No, I'm
Long,
making a
short story long. Okay.
He always says that phrase. Well, make a long story short. I was thinking, can you do that? I don't think you can. But usually what you do is you make a short story long. And it's a better story when you're done, so it's okay.
Go ahead, Cathy.
I'm doing it.
Okay, you're doing it.
Anyway, so I would get the groceries, and most of the time I would ask someone, can you pick me up for church? So you don't know this because you were gone. So it's my story right now.
Okay, I didn't say, hey, did I say anything?
And you look bored. Pay attention. I want your attention.
You still hadn't said the right answer.
I want your focus on me.
I got you. All right, I got it.
No, but I remember they wouldn't pick me up, or they would be late, and I hated to be late. Then I found out the church had a bus that they would pick up people. I know, I was getting to that. But that was my long story. Short story.
Your short story long.
Yeah. But it's a good story. But then, so then I started going to school on the, to church on the school.
You
It
all
actually
messed
looked like
up,
a
man.
school bus. Quit it. You're making me
I make you
mess it
nervous.
up.
Okay.
But it was a beautiful time, and me and my daughter Jody would get on that church bus, and we would go to church, and we would
Were you
enjoy
embarrassed to
that.
go on the church
Not
bus?
at all. Not
Yeah.
at all.
Oh, yeah.
I was more embarrassed to be late or upset that I was late, and
Right,
I
yeah.
didn't want to depend on people, so I did that. And
Yeah.
that was just a short time, maybe maybe 6 months or so that happened, and then someone gave, your brother actually,
Yeah,
your
well,
older brother
I prayed
gave us
about
a
that.
vehicle.
I said, Cathy, if something happens, Lord, I don't, because we gave all our money away.
Well,
see?
I had family nearby. I could always
Yeah.
call someone.
I said, but if
wasn't-
something happens, she needs a vehicle.
Yeah.
And my brother, who's now in heaven, Wayne, drove up, and he had this
Because he didn't
beautiful.
like the idea of me being by myself.
Oh no!
without-
Even Wayne said that. He said, "Jesse, here's the keys to the car," and he gave me that vehicle.
And the car you had when you went in those days was a little small Toyota, and
Yeah.
you just would put
Everything in the back seat.
everything in there. You'd go for 4 days, 5 days,
Come on back.
and come back.
So we did whatever the vision said to do because
right.
God authored it.
Because we were on a journey. You know, we
Yeah.
began, but there were things we did. And actually, I didn't see the fullness of all of this that we're in now. I just was walking toward the promise and God's plan. Like, had the great cloud of witness around us. I know
Amen.
that those who went before were probably praying and cheering us on, or, in
Oh, I
heaven
believe
that-
the people in heaven were saying, "Come on, you can do this."
Yeah.
Because they walked in Hebrews 11 too. They just
Right.
went out with no other,
In the same way, like today, right here in our chat, we're cheering you on. Wherever you're at, I want you to complete the vision that God has put in your heart. Jesus is the author and finisher of your faith, and the plan that he has for your life must be fulfilled. Jesse, there's a lot of people that get born again. They make that first step, and they get weary on their journey, and
Yeah.
they get sidetracked. But God still has a plan to get them back on track and get to the place where they maybe have to repent, turn around, realize at some point they've started doing life on their own in their own direction. But God still has a plan, and he's doing this right now to help you to get back on track because he has a great plan that he wants you to finish and finish well.
Amen. And you will if he authors it. And let me say, he's under no responsibility to finish it. But, he's a good God. And most of the time he will do that. But in the process, you learn something. You went through a trial and a testing that you didn't have to go through. If somebody would tell you, now listen, when you pull out your driveway, they got a big old sinkhole over there. Don't go back into it. And you go back into it, then whose fault is that? My God, somebody helped you, tried to tell you, don't do those things.
Right.
So I decided that I would listen to the voice of God. And whatever he would tell me to do in my time with him, I would just do it. Now, I want to answer all those people, they down know. They said, you are crazy to leave a major oil company. You got a good job. You are going to starve to death. Yes, and ladies and gentlemen.
Is that what they told you?
Oh, yes,
when you
indeed.
resigned?
Oh, yes, indeed. And when I left, I didn't have no money, and sometimes people didn't feed us.
You had no bookings?
I had
You
nothing.
really had no schedule?
I stepped out. I'm not telling you to do that. Don't do it because Jesse's done it. You do it because the Spirit of God tell you to do it. He told me to step out. I stepped out by faith, not knowing where I was going to go. I didn't have a booking. Nobody knew me, nothing. But I knew one thing. I knew the voice of God.
But Jesse, that really wasn't the moment where God authored the vision. That was when you took that step.
I
But
took
it
that
was
step.
over a year before that.
Oh, yeah.
That the Lord called you and you said, yes, Lord, I'll do what you call me to do.
No, actually, it was 2 years. 76, I preached my first message, and I went
Right.
into full-time ministry in 78.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm telling you what, now when I went out, they said, you're not going to make it. And I just smiled. I said, and I just thought, well, the Lord said I would.
Right. That's when you stepped out into full-time ministry, or we did. You
Well,
traveled,
there was times
I stayed home.
there was times you didn't know about it, but I didn't eat for a week. I didn't eat for those 4 days because they wouldn't feed me.
Yeah.
And there was times I ran out of gas trying to come home because they stole the offering.
Yeah, you got all those
But that did not-
You got all those great stories.
Yeah, I did, but he did not discourage me.
No.
You know why? He authored this.
Yes.
And I said, I'll finish it. So I'll hitchhike home.
Right.
And how many times I was caught out on the road, 2 o'clock in the morning, man, good God, 180 miles away from the house, car out of gas, hadn't eaten 4 days. I was supposed to have an offering, and they took it and said, thank you, shook my hand. My Dr. Pepper story, remember that kind of stuff? And you know how God would protect me? I ran out of gas in front of a gas station. Just, I mean,
Or
how's
just
that?
a few feet from it so you're able to roll in.
Yeah,
and
I
coast
just
in.
rolled in, you know, and the car, boom, boom. And I thought, well, I'm in the ministry. And I wasn't mad at God. And I really wasn't mad at those people. I said, well, you know, they're the ones going to pay for
And
that,
a lot
not
of
me.
people would have said, it's finished right
And
there.
so,
They
not
would.
me.
They thought they were going to
I
go
just
in the
got
other
out
direction.
my car, and here comes a guy in a pickup truck
Uh-huh.
who don't know me, and I don't know
That's a
him.
great story.
And y'all heard that story, and I believe I'll
Not
tell it.
everybody has. Go ahead, tell it.
Okay. Now, what's it? Well, when I pulled up, I hadn't eaten. I was hungry. And so I walked in it. You know what they call them 7-Elevens? I don't know if they
It's a
still have.
convenience store.
Little
they-
convenience stores. I walked in, and a man was cleaning out the popcorn machine. This is 2 o'clock and 2:30 in the morning. And you know the seeds and all that stuff at the bottom? And he was about, I said, are you going to throw that away? He said, yeah. I said, do you mind if I have it? And he said, you eat this? I said, I like the crunch. I'd have ate anything. I'd eat wood. I was hungry. I'd eaten 4 days. Okay, because they didn't feed me. I'm not asking you to feel bad for me. No. I mean, devil was doing everything to shut me down, but I was so happy that I was in the ministry. So, man, I'm eating those crunchy things. I come walking out, and there comes the guy with the pickup truck. As I walked in, my car was right by the pumps. So I was thinking, maybe I can ask him to help me push this car, you know, on the side, you know, away from the pumps, you know. And he said, and I was young, you know, I had dark brown hair. He said, go ahead, young man, you go ahead and fill up your car. And I was embarrassed, and I said, oh, no, sir, that's all right, go ahead. I said, you can do it. He said, no, you were there first. I said, no, that's okay, go ahead and fill up your pickup truck. And as soon as I finished saying that, the guy walks out the convenience store. He said, hey, young man. And I hollered at him, and I was a good, I don't know, 50 feet from him, you know, you've been in convenience stores with how to think. He said, I found a bag of popcorn. You want it? I said, yeah. Man, I reached over there. Now, this wasn't the crunchies, you know, the seeds. This was the actual popcorn. And I was just eating. I was hungry. And he looked at me, the man, and he says, what do you do? I said, I'm a preacher. He said, you're a preacher? I said, yes, sir. I want to tell him I'm out of gas. I ain't got no money. He said, where do you preach at? I said, well, I preached up in this church about 100 miles away. He said, I live in that town. I said, you do? And I said, well, that's great. He said, you out of gas? I said, yeah. He said, you got any money? And it's embarrassing, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I went, well, he said, well, did you preach a revival? I said, yes. He said, well, did they give you an offering? And I don't want to say nothing. I'm just trying, you know, I don't know this man. I've never seen him before in my life. And I said, well, no, they didn't. You mean you preach Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday, and then they didn't give you an offering? He said, did they receive an offering? He said, my wife didn't want me to go to that church. Then he started cussing. S-O-B, he started cussing. I'm going, cussing up us. I'm talking cussing. He said, I can't believe that blankety blank. They're no good, trashy blankety blanks. He's blanking, Ruben. I'm just got my eyes. And I stopped eating the popcorn. I'm just looking at it. He said, young man, don't you ever quit. You hear me? Don't you ever quit. Wow. Take that gas nozzle, stick it in that thing, and fill that up. I'm going to buy you all the gas. I fill it up till it's belching. You know how it comes out. And he said, and you walk in that store and get you some bread. It touches me when I think about that, boy. That was hard, man. Get you some bread, bologna, and ham, and, you know, whatever. Make you a sandwich, get some. Nah, I'm all right. And,
I love this. I love seeing this.
I don't know what's happening to me, man. As I get older, I'm getting emotional. I never would do this. I never, you know. Get you some mayonnaise and some mustard.
It's real. It's okay.
Man, I had sandwiches, you know, and he looked at me, and I thought, God, this is an angel of God. He's a cussing angel, but he's an angel of God. And he looked at me and said, here's $700.
Yeah. Oh,
cool, Lord. I'll never forget that.
That's so beautiful.
And you know, when you start a car, once around, you go, boom. I guess it was so hungry. The car was so hungry. I guess it went, boom. It started. And he said, don't you ever quit. Mister, I don't know if you're living today. I couldn't help you then, but I can help you now. I can help you. And I would in a second if I just knew who you were. And, you know, I was young and I thought you were old. You were probably in your 40s. To me, you know, when you're in your 20s, that's old, you know.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that. And God said, I'll never leave you, forsake you.
Yeah.
And I came home, man, and I'm eating sandwiches, driving, and man, tears and everything you could think of.
But
I
think
only
about it.
cried when no one saw it. I just don't cry. But I mean, as I got older, I started to get emotional.
It's okay.
Lord Jesus,
It's
it's okay.
But you know, I think it's so beautiful that along the way, even when we have our moments where we're shaky, you know, maybe we're the enemy's trying to
But I
pull us
didn't
off
quit.
track. The words that God used through that man, never give up. He told you, don't
you ever quit.
Don't you ever quit. I love
You're
that.
going to be a good preacher. Don't you ever quit.
Yeah,
And I said, I won't.
Yeah.
I won't, man. And I
Never
got
quit.
home and Cathy said, did they pay you? And I told you the story. I said, no, they took their heart. But a man came.
Yeah.
Now, he was cussing. And man, I couldn't eat the whole loaf of bread, you know, but in those days you made bologna sandwiches and now ham
You weren't
sandwiches was,
hungry
yeah, I wasn't hungry at all, man. I mean, I ate, and I had eaten 4 days, so I wolfed down about 3 sandwiches. Just driving my car full of gas.
Yeah.
You know, never ran out of gas again.
Praise the Lord.
God provided it.
Yeah. And because you didn't give up.
No.
Never gave up.
Because God authored it,
Right.
I finished it, and he helped me finish
You
it.
know, I think
And
that,
I ain't quitting again. And I'm 72 years old, and I ain't going nowhere. You understand what I'm saying? I'm preaching this gospel. Now, I could retire now. Me and this good-looking woman here could go to Hawaii for the rest of our lives and suffer for Jesus. Just suffer. Praise
we're
God.
not finished, though.
But we're not finished.
No, there's a
Because
lot
he's
more
still
to do.
authoring things. That's why you know why you give to this ministry? Because God's authoring visions and things for us to do and made you a part of it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Can I be honest? I can quit. I can quit, man, say, see you later. You know, but no, we can't do that because you see, so great a cloud of witnesses. They're still watching, Cathy.
That's right.
Not only in heaven, but also here. You see what I'm saying? So that was just one of my, and I can tell you a bunch of them, Lord, how God came
I just thought of
to my
something,
rescue.
but I don't know if we have time to tell it. But-
A few minutes. Which one?
Well, I was thinking about how wonderful it is that someone spoke into your life and encouraged you at a point where you needed encouragement.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you preached a message just this week somewhere. Encouragement is the oxygen
Of the soul.
It's a beautiful message.
Yeah.
that
Breathe.
you breathe.
Yeah.
And so God positions us in places that we're positioned there, maybe not for ourselves, but to help someone else.
Amen.
To be a Barnabas, basically, to someone else, the way Barnabas was to Paul.
Paul the Apostle.
Paul the Apostle. And I was just thinking about a time where God used you to help another young minister who was about to give up, and he was sitting there in a little
Parkersburg, West Virginia.
a little fast food place, and you were just getting
1979.
something to eat. I remember those days you were just starting out. I don't know if that's this story that I'm thinking about was before or after the one where you got your gas or not. I don't remember the timeline on that.
No,
but
that story with the gas was before.
this
before,
so
yeah, 'cause
this guy at the gas station
You started
helps
giving
you.
me some money.
So after that happens, I said, no, you're not going to leave town. You're not going to leave without any money. So I made sure you had money to go. Because
Not
many
much, but
times
something.
when he would be invited, people would say, come on, you don't need to bring anything. We're going to house you. We're going to feed you. You're going to take care of everything. Because we didn't really have the extra money in that way to send him. We had the money in our household for me to take care of the household bills
yeah.
and that kind of a thing. But
And that
this
was
was a
it.
different time for us. And so at this time, when you went to that place in Parkersburg, West Virginia for that Jesus Festival, Jesse went to get a little bite to eat, and there was this one man sitting at a table, and the Lord spoke to you about something. And that
Well, no, what happened was the people that put on the festival, it was called
Oh, you can
Jesus
make a
Festival.
short story long?
Well, I'm going to make it quick. So he asked all the guest speakers that after he finished preaching, this is on the side of a mountain. There was no food out there other than sloppy joes. You know what sloppy joes are? But I had one room, and I ate a hamburger
Okay, so this
before I
was
went out to that,
before you
and
went
I
out
saw
there.
a man.
And you had your $50
I had
with you
$50.
that I usually gave you when
Gave
you
me
left
fit,
for a
and boy,
meeting.
that was big.
And I
And
told
the
you,
Lord said, go give him all your
right.
money. And it was $4 and that little hamburger, $4 something.
For your hamburger.
And
that
he
you did.
was quitting. I quit. Nobody, God doesn't care for me. And I walked in, I said, sir, I don't know who you are, but here's all my money. What? He said, and I gave a little tip, paid for my hamburger, and I gave him all that money. It blew him away. He started crying. He said, how can I say God didn't take care of me? And I went to the mountain, and I made up my mind, well, I hadn't eaten before.
Yeah.
I ain't going to eat again because I
Fasting.
couldn't buy a sloppy Joe to save my life.
But-
and you couldn't get anything
Right,
else.
Yeah.
But watch what happened. Well, and I'll take a little time on this real quick. I'll never forget this.
It's such a beautiful story.
Good Lord. So, and the only people had was just sloppy Joe, and there was no ice. You had to drink everything, on the side of that mountain. But at my table, this little booth, they wasn't as big as this, When I got back, there was roast beef and mashed potatoes and gravy
Hot plate lunch.
and green beans and a Coke this big with crushed ice.
Just for you.
And I looked around.
Yeah.
Nobody. So I
Yeah,
thought,
you told me
man,
all the speakers had their own little definite
little
place
thing.
where you would go so
yeah,
people who were there
would say
could
hello
meet
to
you.
you.
Yeah.
Now watch this. So I said, then who did this? And several people said, we don't know. It happened for 4 straight days. Nobody ever saw it. Lunch and supper. Nobody ever saw who put that. And I thought, angels are feeding me.
You're
And
getting help.
I had some great food, cornbread, Lisa, Jesus. I mean, and then I had them old sloppy
You were
Joe
eating good
sandwiches.
in the neighborhood.
Eating good, son. So watch this. Never found out who it was. 8 years later, I went to Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is Parkersburg, West Virginia, where I was. I went to Virginia, okay? And I went preaching a barn. The church was built like a barn. It was a beautiful place. So I finished preaching. I never go to my book and tape table. Now, I've been in the ministry, now about 9 years, I guess 9, 10 years, something like that. And a little old lady comes walking up to me, her and her husband. So I'm thinking, and I'm right there by the book and tape table, which I never go. And she looks at me and she says, you like my food? I went, excuse me? Do you like my food? And it hit me. I went, Parkersburg, West Virginia. She said, yes, at the Jesus Festival in 1979. She said, I was in a camper and I looked out and God spoke to me, feed that young man. He's given all his, boy, he's gonna touch me again. Feed him. And she did. I said, you want this whole tape table? I'll give it all to you,
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. She's probably in heaven. She was in her 70s. That's real old. Now I'm 72 now. And I'll never forget those things. That's right. She loves this.
Come on.
It's time to quit this show here. Ladies and gentlemen.
No, but the point too, I love that part of the story, but I just was thinking about that young man that you encouraged that day. I would love to meet him one day. We'll meet him in heaven, I'm sure.
Yeah,
And
his name
see-
was Dan. That's all I know.
Really, and you'd love to think how many people's lives were affected through his ministry.
You know what I told him,
that
Kathy?
continued, that finished, hopefully.
You know what I told him?
What?
Don't quit.
Don't quit.
Don't quit. You can do this. Author and finisher of your faith.
That's right.
I want to thank all of you watching today, and I mean that sincerely. I want to thank all our partners for supporting this ministry the way you do. There's never a day without prayer. If you'd like to be a part of this ministry and you want to donate, you can. If you don't, don't. If God didn't tell you, don't do it. Bless God, don't do it if He didn't tell you to do it. Now, if He tell you to do it, do it. But if He didn't, you can use PayPal. You can go to JDM.org. That's our website, and give if you want to.
Right.
If you don't want to, still watch the program. Just enjoy yourself. Because just maybe one day, just maybe, down the road, you'll meet somebody who's about ready to quit. And you'll say, don't quit.
Don't quit.
Because God is the author and finisher of your faith. This is Jesse and Cathy Duplantis. Until next time, we see you again, okay? God bless you. Bye-bye.
This media is copyrighted by Jesse Duplantis Ministries for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this media or of any pictures or accounts without Jesse Duplantis Ministries' consent is strictly prohibited.